everyone, welcome back again to another video. So today this video is going to be for NEET aspirant. So you might be wondering, how do I have to concentrate for NEET Botany and what are the important topics in each of those chapters and units? I'm going to talk about it, and we have another video which will be coming on NEET Zoology also, so you can just check it out. So first I'm going to talk about what are the best book that you definitely need to have in your hand for NEET Botany. We know that biology is going to be for 360 marks. So 180 marks is for botany and 180 marks is for zoology. So whoever is more comfortable with botany, I'm going to talk about some of the important topics also. So we'll first start off with what are the best books that you have to go in for, and I'll be showing you the images also so that you can purchase if you want. And the most important thing, that whenever you're going to start your NEET preparation for biology very specifically, you need to follow NCERT only, mainly NCERT. After studying NCERT, then you can refer any of the books, because you can find almost 90% of the questions comes from your NCERT books only. So you can see this is the NCERT books. So this is NCERT biology book for class 11th. So there is going to be botany and zoology combined together, but I will be categorizing for botany separately and zoology separately. And this is for 11th, and this is the NCERT book for 12th. This is 12th book. So you need to definitely have these two books in your hand. And if you are gonna ask me like what type of notes do I have to study, I want to study apart from it, then I'm going to suggest Objective NCERT at your fingertips by MTG you can go in for. So here you'll be having NCERT note with good quality images, and topic wise NCERT based MCQs will be given, of course. So you're going to study each of the lines which is given in the NCERT with all the images, starting from the prefaces as well as summary. Many used to study only, if we talk in case of a plant kingdom, you'll be studying only what is given in the plant kingdom starting from, but many of you will be missing the summary part, because sometimes what exactly happens, it's in summary part there would be some 2-3 lines will be extra which is not mentioned in the previous case, so which is already present in your NCERT. So they're going to ask such kind of questions also. So you will have NCERT based MCQs in this type of book, and they have a lot of problems and MCQs, and you have previous year question papers also, and they have given mock test paper and 6 practice paper they have given. So these are the most important book. So we have also done a video on reference book for the complete NEET. There I have mentioned a lot of books that you can follow for botany, but this is the 3 important books that definitely you need to have at the time of preparation. After finishing this book, if you want to learn extra, then you can go for the rest of the things. So this is about the best book that you're going to do it for NEET biology completely. So this is for botany I'm going to talk about. So if we have to talk about the chapter wise weightages for botany only, so you can see diversity of living organism is going to be 14%, and this is for entire biology. Plant physiology 6%, structural organization is going to be 5%, human physiology of course always the highest amount is 20%, and evolution and genetics 18%, cell function 9%, reproduction 9%, human welfare and biology 9%, and environmental and ecology 6%, and biotechnology. And we have seen biotechnology and its application is variable, like not this year, the previous year we found a lot of question has come in biotechnology, but was really unexpected. So this weightage can be variable, but most of the important things I'm going to talk in case of botany. I'll be talking the most important chapters in unit and what are the topics. So first I'm going to take you to NEET Botany, so 11th book, and NEET Botany 12th book. What are the botany chapters in 11th and 12th book? So this is going to be the 11th book, as I shown you. This is going to be the 11th book. So in this book, which are the botany topics which are going to be present? So we will start off with Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, Unit 4. And then we will go for Unit 6, Unit 7, Unit 8, Unit 10. So first let's start off with NEET Botany 11th, and next is NEET Botany 12. So we have in Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3 and Unit 4 in 11th are going to be, some of the things are going to be for botany. So Unit 1 you can see diversity in the living world. Chapter 1 Living World is botany only, and biological classification and then plant kingdom, all these things will comes under botany. Chapter 4, which is animal kingdom, will come under zoology. And the second unit is structural organization in plants and animals. So here we will not take up animal part, we will talk only about the plant part, which is morphology in flowering plants and anatomy of flowering plants. We are not talking about the 7th unit. So 5th, 6th unit will come under botany. And the third unit is cell structure and function. Here you have cell, the unit of life, and cell cycle and cell division comes under botany phase. The next one, plant physiology. Most of the questions in plant botany comes from plant physiology. You can see transport in plant, mineral nutrition, photosynthesis, respiration, plant growth and development. So these are plant physiology. And in case of 12th, if we have to talk in case of 12th, it starts from unit number 6, 7, 8 and 10. So unit number 6, reproduction, you can see chapter number 2, sexual reproduction in flowering plants. You can see, let me just close all these things. So sexual reproduction in flowering plants and genetics and evolution. In this you will find principle of inheritance and variation, which is the most important one, molecular basis of inheritance, and evolution is not included here. Evolution is for zoology. And biology and human welfare, microbes and human welfare. See, you can expect a lot of questions in microbes and human welfare, which is very easy. If you're going to have a tabulation with a type of diseases and or not diseases exactly, it's going to be the organisms and what is it useful in household products, industrial products, sewage treatment, biogas, biofertilizers, everything will come under this. If you're going to make a tabulation, this becomes very easy. The next is ecology. All the 4 units like organism and population, ecosystem, biodiversity and conservation, environmental issue. All the things comes under botany. So these are the things that which comes under botany. So these are units and I'm going to talk about the chapters. So first let's talk about unit number 1, chapter 1, which is living world. So what are the most important thing that you have to talk about this? This unit is very important, which is very easy also. So you have to study what are the criteria. So growth can be a criteria or metabolism or consciousness. Everything is going to be the criteria. There is going to be a list where we'll be talking about, and taxonomy nomenclature, the nomenclature and taxonomical aids and systemics. These are the 4 topics which you have to study in living world, which is very, very important. And in biological classification, there are different type of classification. There's going to be, let's start off with 3 kingdom classification, 4 kingdom classification, 5 kingdom classification, 6 kingdom classification. But the most widely accepted classification is going to be 5 kingdom classification. So these are 5 kingdom classification. You can see kingdom Monera, Protista, fungi, kingdom Plantae, kingdom Animalia. So 5 kingdoms we have, and in this biological classification we'll be studying the first 3 kingdoms, and the next unit we'll be studying plant kingdom. Animal kingdom is the next one, which is for zoology. So Monera, you have to study about bacteria and cyanobacteria. So this is all for bacteria, and cyanobacteria is otherwise called as blue-green algae. So in bacteria you have to study the structure of the bacteria and what are the appendages like cilia, flagella and all this thing, and how a bacteria reproduces, asexual methods, how it is actually reproducing, bacterial recombinations, how a reproduction actually takes place, how recombination takes place, how a bacteria life process is, and what are the type of classification based on the mode, autotrophic mode of bacterium, heterotrophic modes you have to study, and there are different type of other bacteria based on the concentration of salt where it is present, and archaebacteria, everything come under this, and actinomyces, and of course mycoplasma. You have to study about mycoplasma. You can expect questions in this, and of course cyanobacteria. So bacteria, cyanobacteria, mycoplasma you have to study in under kingdom Monera. The next is kingdom Protista. You have to concentrate on 4 important things: chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, slime molds. Most important thing is look onto all the images, diagrams with all the figure notation which is given below, very important. And the next is kingdom fungi. So how a sexual reproduction takes place in fungi and what are the type of fungi: deuteromycetes, zygomycetes, ascomycetes, basidiomycetes. All these things you have to study along with their life cycle also you have to study. The next is mycorrhiza, and the most important thing, virus and viroids are given, but you have to study virions, prions also. This is also very important. You need to know the difference between a virus, viroids, virions, prions. All these things are really, really important in biological classification. The next is plant kingdom. So in plant kingdom, we already know algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, angiosperms. All five will come under this. So in algae, we can see it starts off with green algae, which is chlorophyceae, red algae, and then brown algae. So very importantly, I'm going to tell you, please remember the examples of all these things along with the image which is given in the NCERT. If there's one page which has all the images of red algae, green algae and brown algae together, and there's a tabulation which talks about all the things which will be at the bottom. So study the complete things which is there, because that will become a MCQ question. The next is bryophytes, which is called as the amphibians of the plant kingdom, and you have to study two important things. One is mosses and another one is liverworts, and you have to remember the structure which is image which is given in the NCERT, and you have to study the life cycle. What is the dependent phase, independent phase? You have to study the complete life cycle. How a sporophytic stage is generated, how a gametophytic stage is generated. And the next is pteridophytes, which is called as the reptiles of the plant kingdom. Here, very importantly, you have to study the examples, the diagrams which is given in the books like ferns. All these things are given, so you have to study that. And there is a 4 classes which is given at the end of the pteridophytes paragraph, which is very Psilopsera, all this thing. So that is, and life cycle, you have to study the very important one. The next is gymnosperms. When you study gymnosperms, you have to study about the difference between a cycas and a pinus. So the symbiotic association of pinus with the mycorrhiza, and what is going to be the symbiotic association with the cycas. So you have to study these two differences, and also the life cycle in gymnosperms. This is very important. The next is angiosperms. Angiosperms, of course, all flowering plants comes under angiosperms, and you have to study life cycle. The double fertilization, what are the structure of the flower, how a reproduction takes place, how a final embryo is formed. So I'm going to suggest this topic with the sexual reproduction in flowering plants, which is in the 12th book. So when you're going to study this part along with the 12th unit or the 12th book, first chapter, which is going to be sexual reproduction in flowering plant, it will be very easy. So always take a plant kingdom and sexual reproduction in flowering plants together, so that you can correlate and study both the things together. And finally, there's an image which will be talking about the alteration of generations of all the things together. That's the most important thing. So if I have to talk about this one, the tabulation which is given in this is very important. All the images with examples is very important. And angiosperms, the complete life cycle, alteration of generation is very important for the first unit, which is diversity of living world. The second one is structural organization in plants and animals. Animals, we are just leaving as such for zoology. We are talking only about plants. First is morphology in flowering plants. Never ever refer any other books apart from in NCERT book, because this we will find a lot of questions coming only from NCERT. We have never seen any questions which has come apart from NCERT. I'm going to tell you what you have to study. So first start off with root. In root, you study about the types of roots, tap root, adventitious roots, and what are the regions of the root, starting from root cap, and then it is going to be elongation, and then meristematic phase, elongation phase, and maturation phase. And then you have to study the modification of roots and their examples which is given in the book. The next, the stem, modification of the stem, and what are the example. Refer only the NCERT book, don't refer any other book, because you will find examples coming only from this book. Leaf, structure of leaves, what are the type of leaves, simple compound leaves, phyllotaxy, venations, and modification of leaves. These are very important, and along with all the examples, modification of leaves, all the examples, just make mnemonics and write it over. Next is flower, inflorescence, and the most important thing is types of flowers based on the positions we'll be studying. Hypogynous flowers, perigynous flowers, epigynous flowers, and the example of all this thing with the image which is given in the NCERT. You can expect a lot of time these questions will be keep on coming. Next is estivation, fruits, seeds, and the most important thing is family. The floral diagram, the floral formula, Solanaceae, Fabaceae, Liliaceae. Just stick on to NCERT book and study only floral diagram, floral everything, and read all the things importantly. That is far enough. So you can expect questions on families, and you can expect questions on the type of flowers and the leaf, phyllotaxy, venations and modifications, stem modification examples, root modification and examples. Most predominantly. So this is about morphology in flowering plants. The next is anatomy. Anatomy, I'm going to suggest you one thing. Always refer to the book. Whichever image you're going to see it in the NCERT book, that is very important. You can see a lot of images in this one. Just look onto every part which is marked in the NCERT book. They're going to ask that kind of question only. So start off with meristematic tissue. So, which is shoot apical meristem SAM and root apical meristem, which is RAM. And then what are the type of tissues? Simple tissues, complex tissues, or compound tissues. Under this we have parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. You can make a difference in study. Complex tissue, xylem and phloem. In xylem you have to study tracheids and vessels. And phloem you will be studying about seed tubes, companion cells very specifically. And all the ground tissues you need to study. Epidermal tissues, vascular tissues, and ground tissues you need to study. Ground tissues are nothing but parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma only. And most important, you should study about the root and the stem. So what is going to be the root in case of monocot plant, dicot plant, and stem in case of dicot plant and monocot plant? Leaf anatomy in dicot plant and monocot plant. What is the arrangement? Which means you have to study everything separately. So I would suggest how to learn this unit or this chapter is, if you're talking about root, study monocot root, dicot root together, and then go in for the primary growth of the monocot root, dicot root. Okay, like this you should study. Next is activity of vascular cambium, activity of secondary xylem, activity of core cambium. And always when you're studying root, read like this: anatomy of root, primary growth of root, secondary growth of root. The next is all the diagrams which is given there are important. Autumn wood, spring wood, and secondary growth in case of dicots very specifically. So you have to study the anatomy of dicot stem, and then primary growth of dicot stem, secondary growth of dicot stem. So study in the sequence because in the book they have given all the things separately. So if you're going to study that way, it will be difficult. So study anatomy of monocot stem and then go in for the primary growth of the monocot stem. Then take up the anatomy of the dicot stem and the primary growth of the dicot stem, the secondary growth of the dicot stem. Like this, if you're going to study, it's going to be easy. If you're going to read it according to the sequence of book, it's kind of difficult. Okay, the next is going to be cell structure and function. So in this, the chapter is going to be cell, the unit of life. This is the most important, very fundamental unit for anything. So cell theory, Sladen and Swan theory, animal cell, plant cell, bacterial cell, of course, mycoplasma and PPLO. This I would like to highlight. In the book, they have given the size of mycoplasma and PPLO different, whereas in the image, it is different. So check onto both the things which is given in the book. And gram positive, gram negative, organelles, all the organelles in prokaryotes. Usually they do not have that much organelles except ribosomes, inclusion bodies. That much only is present. And eukaryotes, you have to study cell membrane. Very specifically in cell membrane, you have to study about the transport. Active transport, passive transport. Under passive transport, you have to study diffusion, facilitated diffusion you have to go in for. And then you have to go in for osmosis, everything together. In facilitated, you have to learn uniport, symport, antiport, everything together. And then cell wall, endomembrane system, you're going to learn 4 things together. Endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, lysosomes, vacuoles together. And then you'll be studying plastids, types of plasmids. Under that, you have to study about the chloroplast. And then ribosomes you have to study. And then you will be studying nucleus. You will be studying nucleus also. Nucleus is very important, which is given in the NCERT book at the last, but very important. I would suggest learning nucleus along with cell cycle and cell division together. That's why it's given at the end of the page. If you're going to see it over there, nucleus is the last one. After you study nucleus, then you have to take it to the which is cell cycle and cell division. Very easy, because there they will be talking about when a cell is not dividing, which is interphase. When a cell start dividing, you are going to see the chromosome. So that's where it is given. Then you have to study about cilia, flagella, cytoskeletons very specifically, and the chromosomes. Most important, different type of chromosome is given with the image based on the location of the centromeres, like metacentric, submetacentric, acrocentric, telocentric. Most important questions for this one you have to concentrate on. The next, of course, is going to be cell cycle and cell division. So study nucleus and then come back to this one. So you'll be studying about interphase G1, S, G2, and of course G naught phase, and then mitosis completely, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase, and meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. And in meiosis 1 you will be studying about prophase 1, metaphase, anaphase 1, telophase. In prophase 1 you have to remember all the 5 phases. So you have to remember leptotene phase, zygotene phase, factine, and then diplotin and diakinesis together. And you have to remember all the importance of mitosis and meiosis together, along with the images which is given only in NCERT book. That's very, very important for this chapter. So you have to study. I'll be telling what are the units that you can study it together also. The next is unit number 4, which is plant physiology, most important topic. So transport in plants. So transport in plants, you have to start off with what is active transport. With the production of ATP, utilization of ATP, active transport will take place from low to high concentration. Passive transport, you have to study from high concentration to low concentration, the solute or solvent moves. And there are 3 types: diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and osmosis you will be studying. And then you have to come to water potential. And what's the formula for water potential? You have to remember water potential is equal to solute potential plus pressure potential. And solute potential is negative, very importantly, and you have to remember solute potential is directly proportional to water potential. That is important. Osmotic pressure, osmotic potential, DPD, diffusion pressure deficient, very important. Water always moves from the low DPD to high DPD, but water moves from high concentration to low concentration. And then plasmolysis, when a plant cell is kept in isotonic solution, what will happen? Hypotonic, hypertonic, important question. And transport, you have to study long distance transported and short distance transport. We'll be studying about the root pressure, transpiration, pull, everything together. And then how the minerals are absorbed or water has been absorbed by the plant through apoplast pathway and symplast pathway. And root pressure, the most important, phloem loading and phloem unloading, mass flow hypothesis. So this is very, very important, very easy one if you're going to understand this one. But the most complicated thing about this chapter, transport and plant, is you have to read every word, because there is negative, positive, every equation you have to understand and then learn. There is one very specific image which is given in our book based on the water potential. So there are 3 questions which will be listed over there. That is very, very important. The next is mineral nutrition. So in mineral nutrition, you have to first study about what are macronutrients and micronutrients. After studying that, just make a tabulation and put all the functions of it. And suppose if they become less, what's going to happen? Deficiency. And if they become more, toxicity happens. So deficiency and toxicity you have to remember. Then come for the nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen metabolism, which is biological nitrogen fixation, how a nodule is formed, and you have to remember the equation. The most important thing is the paragraph has a different write up, the figure has a different write up. There's a little bit contradictory, so you have to read it properly. And then assimilation finally, which we will be talking about transaminations, everything together we'll be talking in this unit. In this unit, I would suggest making a tabulation for all the minerals and studying it is a very great help. The next one is photosynthesis in higher plant. So this is the most important thing you have to study in photosynthesis, and start off with all the early experiments. And light reaction, just concentrate on non-cyclic photophosphorylation, where you have to concentrate chemiosmotic hypothesis and cyclic photophosphorylation. And then dark reaction, which is called a C3 cycle. And then Hatch-Lax pathway, which is C4 cycle. And then photorespiration or C2 pathway. And then CAMP pathway, which is not given in NCERT, but it's important that you have to remember for xerophytic plant, desert plants. And what are the factors that influences photosynthesis? And action spectrum and absorption spectrum, which will be given there. Red drop effects, emerson's enhancement effect, and how many ATPs and NADPH2 are utilized for the dark reaction. So there is going to be 6 cycles. So how many ATP and NADPH2 are used for 6 cycles or 3 cycles or 2 cycles, they can ask you in the form of a calculation. This is very important. The next one is respiration in plants. Respiration, we know there is going to be cellular respiration, aerobic and anaerobic. Under aerobic, you have to study glycolysis, pyruvic acid decarboxylation, citric acid cycle, electron transport chain, oxidative phosphorylation. For ETC, if you're following an old book, please don't use that one. So a revised version has been come, so use that one. Anaerobic fermentation, lactic acid fermentation, alcoholic fermentation. And you have to remember how many ATPs are generated. In photosynthesis, it is utilized. How many ATPs are generated here? How many NADH is generated here? And the calculation, which is the energy chart you have to put. And finally, the respiratory quotients, very important. So you have to read for this respiration in plants. And the next is plant growth and development. So this is very very important. It will come in your examination. Most of the time they'll ask this question like absolute value, absolute growth rate and relative growth rate. So they'll be giving you an image and they ask you to calculate. For calculation purpose, definitely you have to go for it. And growth models, you have to go for lag phase, log phase, all the growth phase, logarithmic phase, arithmetic phase, everything. And what is plasticity? Examples, very specifically coriander examples you have to go for. And all the hormones which is given in the book. If you talk in case of gibberellic acids and all, you have to remember the history behind it. And what is the organism? So what is auxin? The history behind it. And gibberellic acid, the history behind it. Cytokinin, zeaxanthin, you should remember. Ethylene, abscisic acid. And then photoperiodism. In photoperiodism, you have to remember long day plant and short day plant, which is very, very important. And then vernalization in flowering plants. This is also very, very important. So please remember the example for short day and long day plant. So if you're going to read all these things together, it's going to be very simple. So how you can start off with? So just start off with photosynthesis in higher plants and respiration in higher plants, and then go for growth and development and how this hormone is responsible for transport in plant, and then come to mineral nutrition. It will be very very helpful. The next is NEET Botany 12th book. So unit number 8, reproduction. In reproduction we have a sexual reproduction in flowering plants, and then human reproduction and reproductive health we have. In this we are going to talk about only plants. So we have sexual reproduction in flowering plants. In this you have to learn about the double fertilization very specifically. So what is the structure? What is microsporogenesis, megasporogenesis, with the images which is given in the book. Double fertilization, endosperm, how an endosperm is formed, how a seed is formed, and finally apomixis and polyembryony. You have to study. So as I already mentioned, study plant kingdom and sexual reproduction in flowering plants together. Very specifically because you study about the basics of angiosperms and its cycle, and sexual reproduction in flowering plants can be a great help. The next is genetics and evolution. So chapter number 5, principles of inheritance and variation. I'm going to tell very important things only. Mendel's law. Very important is Mendel's law. Law of dominance, law of segregation, law of independent assortment, and allelic interaction, intra-allelic interaction and interallelic interactions. And what is the maths of independent assortment? You should know to calculate the phenotypic ratio and the genotypic ratio. And what is the extension of Mendelian's law? We'll be talking about the deviations from Mendel's law. And inheritance of one gene, you have to remember codominance, incomplete dominance, pleiotropy. And inheritance of two genes, you have to remember polygenic inheritance, all these things together. Very important is chromosomal basis of inheritance. We have an important image which is given along with the explanation. Very important. Linkage and recombinations. Very, very important. Inversely proportional. Sex determination in honeybees and insects and birds, and in human beings you have to remember. Very important. Mutation. So I would suggest studying mutation at the last and then study molecular basis of inheritance, because these two are related. And then pedigree analysis. Very important. And the next one is molecular basis of inheritance. So here you'll be studying about the DNA, the structure of a DNA, what is the Chargaff's rule, base pair rule, and then how a DNA is packed, because it's 2.2 meters long, how it is packed inside a very small cell. So histone wrapping everything together, transforming principle. And then you have to study Avery, MacLeod and McCarthy's experiment, which talks about the chemical nature. And then Hershey experiment, which is the final experiment, which says DNA is the genetic material. And then Messelson and Stegel's experiment, which talks about the DNA replication and the steps involved in DNA replication and all the 10 enzymes which are involved in it, and the central dogma, which is separately for prokaryotes and separately for eukaryotes, how a transcription takes place. Or we can say from DNA to mRNA, mRNA to protein in eukaryotes separately, DNA to mRNA, mRNA to protein in eukaryotes separately. They have given both the things together in our book. So when you're studying, learn it separately. LAC operon, or if you have time, you can learn TRIF operon also. Human Genome Project and DNA fingerprinting. Human Genome Project, all the salient features are very, very important, and DNA fingerprinting. The next one is biology in human welfare. So here microbes in human welfare, most important units, very easy unit. Just make a tabulation for microorganism. What is the product that is produced from it? This is a very important question which keeps coming in your NEET examination all the time. So microbes in human welfare, like household products like lactic acid bacterium, and we'll be talking about the alcohol production, everything here. So industrial products, so we will be talking about the Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Here we'll be talking about the antibiotics, everything we'll be studying, and chemicals and some organic acids in industries, how it is produced, the organism and the products produced. Sewage treatment, you have to talk about BOD, everything, biological oxygen demand, and what are the organisms that is involved, and biofertilizers, how a biogas is produced, and biocontrol agents. Here you will be talking about the Bacillus thuringiensis, very important one here. So this you have to remember, most important, you will be expecting question. The last unit is 10th unit, ecology. All the 4 units we'll be having. In first, organism and population, you have to remember population attributes, population death, and you have to study about number of interactions, like name of the interactions, like mutualism, competitions, predations, parasitism, commensalism, amensalism, all these things you'll be studying. In ecosystems, what you have to study is you have to study about the standing crop, stratifications, and then you will be talking about the trophic levels, the different type of trophic level, ecological successions like xerophytic successions, mesophytic successions you have to study. And biodiversity and conservation, will be talking about what are the causes of biodiversity loss, and some acts will be there, and you'll be talking about how to conserve, in vitro conservation, ex situ conservation, in situ and ex situ conservation we'll be studying in biodiversity and conservation. Last, environmental issues, we'll be studying about air pollution, water pollution, and some of the acts which has been implemented we'll be studying: agrochemical waste, radioactive waste, greenhouse effect, global warming, ozone depletion, deforestation, and finally we'll be studying about some of the programs that's been conducted to prevent this environmental losses also. So these are the most important topics for each of the units in each of the chapters, very specifically for botany. So if I have to talk about the complete things, first I would suggest you to link certain things in study, and then you can study the rest of the things. So first you can start off with plant physiology very specifically, or if anybody wanted to learn basics, better go for first unit, living world, biological classification, and then study first chapter 1 and chapter 2, and then come back to cell, the unit of life, and cell cycle and cell division. So first 1, 2, and then 8 and 10 you can finish off. After studying, you can take up morphology in plants, anatomy in plants, and then you can take up plant kingdom. When you're studying plant kingdom, then you have to come to the sexual reproduction in flowering plants together. And then you can study all the plant physiology together, and then you can study principle of inheritance and molecular basis of inheritance together, and microbes and human welfare separately, all the ecology units separately. So whenever you're going to study all the correlated units first, so that it will be very helpful for all of you. So I believe that this video is helpful for all of you. If you have any questions or anything that you want to tell it to BioTecNika, please put it in the comment section. Thank you all of you for your time, and I'm going to meet you back again with another video. Thank you all of you.